Plank. Presented by Ram. Starts now.
Hello, folks, and welcome to another edition of The Plank. TK along with John Sable as we continue to talk about this football team that has managed 2 victories in the course of what seems like about 6.5 months.
Seems longer than that.
It really does. It really does. And what we have to talk about in that Cincinnati game is something to be desired. Unbelievable finish of that game.
Every week
I don't even know how
like
to. I just am totally speechless.
they keep outdoing themselves every single week. Have you noticed that?
They are. You know what? One thing I will say for them, that they never run out of ways to lose.
They're consistently bad at ending games bad. That makes any sense.
They are. I got a word for it, but I can't use it. All right. Well, listen, by the way, Greg Auman is going to be joining us here in just a couple of minutes. We're going to talk about that game against Cincinnati and look ahead to the game against Detroit. And then later on in the show, next about 7:15 or so, Tom Lydon from WXYZ, sports director in Detroit, will be joining us to talk about the Lions, who actually are a pretty good football team this year. And I think
really good.
Some people in Detroit, because they know what's happened in Detroit, waiting for the other shoe to drop and watch him, fall off the plate of life. But I don't think it's going to be this week. But
no, and they could hurt you and burn you in so many different ways, offensively, defensively. If you look back at last year, the Bucs somehow pulled off a win. Don't know how they did it, but they did. Actually, well, you know how they did it because Detroit turned the ball over 5 times. Chance of that happening again, slim to none.
Right. Okay, well, the number to call, you see it on the screen, 813-367-0171. That's the number, and you can also reach us at various formats right here. And John, you can reach him at John_Sable. Mm-hmm. And you reach me at TCorin WFTS. I got it up right here, by the way.
You do? This time you do.
I have it up here. I have notifications ready to go. If it ever, there it is. There's my notification.
Boom, there you go. Pop
it's a beautiful thing. So if you want to join us that way, that's fine. But we prefer the call-in.
Yeah, because we always have some great things that we could possibly give away to the viewers, too.
Like pizzas.
Like pizza.
Who doesn't like pizza? We're having a hard time trying to give away.
Which we all know you guys love pizza. Courtesy of our friends over at Papa John's. You call in and you give us a good take. You tell us who you want to walk the plank. If you could answer a couple questions that we want to give you, you have a chance to win a free pizza.
That's right. We got somebody walking the plank this week. Frankly, it should be about 8 people walking the plank this week.
Or 12. How about 12?
Well, we could try 12. Try
12
13,
because
Baker's dozen, whatever.
Well, 12 because of the 12 men on the field.
It could be.
Yeah.
Well, I'm waiting for them to put 13 up there.
Yeah, you could do that.
I could do that, too.
Yeah.
You know what's amazing about that whole situation is that they actually had 2 sets of teams coming in.
Yeah.
They screwed it all up. I mean, they completely, I don't know what, they had 2 guys calling for different platoons of players.
Right.
And all of a sudden they look and they go, and who was it? Who's the wide receiver looking at the other one? Heron looking at
Murphy, was it?
Murphy, I guess,
yeah.
And say, this
and they were
right.
about to spike the ball.
This ain't right.
They were about to spike the ball with 12 guys in the field, too.
I don't know what to say. I don't know what to say.
The wheels have fallen off.
Maybe Greg Auman can bring it all into perspective.
Yeah, Greg knows all the answers.
Okay. Well, let's go to Greg right now, who joins us here on the plank with the Plank Report. But that's okay. We won't go to the Plank Report because it's brought to us by Ram, by the way.
Yes.
We have a technical issue. But, Greg, how you doing, my man?
I'm doing well, Tom. Doing well. I don't need the formal introduction. It's okay.
I know, but Ram does.
That's true. Sorry.
That's okay. That's no problem. Listen, I'm glad you showed up because please make some sense of this because I'm almost speechless. I don't know what to say about this football team anymore, especially the way they lost that football game against Cincinnati.
Yeah, they keep finding new ways to do it. And, again, they very consistently can get themselves in position to win these games late and just as consistently are falling short. So a lot of the same things we talk about every time, Tom.
Yeah, it seems like every week we have a different thing to complain about. I mean, when you're 2-10, there's always something to complain about. How much, when you're going back on this, Greg, we saw Lovey and even Josh McCown take full responsibility of it, and even this week at the press conferences, they kind of reiterated the same thing. But how much do you really think this is kind of is the complete summary of the 2014 Buccaneers? Don't you agree this kind of sums up the entire season?
No, it is, John. You're right, and it's one of those things where it's unfortunate, in that you have a bunch of things happening all at once on that play. As Josh McCown said, they normally don't do a lot of subbing in a 2-minute drill. Normally, you bring your personnel out there, you roll down the field with them, win or lose. And this is something where, again, because they have no tight ends, because they have no fullbacks, they're using O'Neal Cousins as an extra lineman. And if you look at the previous play before the 12-man play, Josh McCown gets hit pretty hard. And they're trying to have enough time to throw the ball downfield. And to do that, they want to bring in an extra pass protector, and they bring him in. And for whatever reason, again, he isn't, Cousins is a guy that hasn't been in the game much this year. They don't communicate that Rob Huron has to come out. Huron's a guy that was inactive for the 2 weeks before this as well. So he's not used to being on the field, let alone in a situation like that. And then when you look at things, you look over at the line and you see a left tackle. You don't see a tight end. You see another left tackle. So for a lot of reasons, things from a communication standpoint weren't where they needed to be. And then even if the Bucs had seen it, obviously it negated a big gain. But the Bucs were out of timeout. So even if they had somehow seen it on the sidelines, noticed that there was something, they're out of timeout. All they can do is spike it to where you wouldn't need as much time off the clock. They're still going to take a penalty. They're still going to get back up. So once those two guys were on the field, it was kind of moot when you noticed it or how it was discovered. And again, they've had some procedural issues, some making sure everybody's in the right place at the right time type issues all year long.
Greg, when you look at it, he basically tried to give the game to the Buccaneers in that first half.
Mm-hmm.
He had 3 interceptions. The Buccaneers were hardly able to put any points on the board at that point. And I feel for Marcus Arroyo, because I think he's in a position right now where he's a little bit over his head in this thing. But sometimes I wonder whether or not this guy's drawing up plays, or is he trying to, draw what you should do as an offensive coordinator is play to your strengths and play to your players, and not just draw up plays for the sake of drawing up plays. I'm just not quite sure whether or not he was doing that in this game, particularly in that first half, and certainly in that second half when they had opportunities to get to Evans and to Jackson, and they never touched the football.
Yeah, I agree with you. And then Marcus Arroyo is a guy that's over his head. He was underqualified to be a quarterback's coach when he got the job. And I think his best asset was just a familiarity with Jeff Tedford, having worked with Tedford, understanding his offense and his scheme. And then when you lose Tedford, Tedford didn't have any NFL experience either. So you don't have the normal brain trust you have in an offensive room, on a sidelines, in terms of understanding how NFL defenses work, how they adjust, and how you adjust to them. So, again, I think Arroyo is trying his best to make do with what he has. Obviously, he's had personnel issues in terms of an inconsistent offensive line. He's changed quarterbacks. He's had running backs come in and out. There's not many things that have gone right around him either. And when you look at this right now, the play calling, I think fairly consistently we see opponents adjusting to the Bucs better than they're adjusting to opponents. So you look at Sunday, and they ran the ball well. Doug Martin had a season high in yards by halftime, and then whatever happened at the half that the Bengals adjusted to, the Bucs left for 6 yards in the second half on 10 carries. So when you lose that part of things, when you become that predictable, this wasn't, you see that normally when you're down by 24 points in the second half and you have to throw to try and make up. The Bucs never trailed by more than 4 points in this game. So, I think the Bengals took away a lot of what the Bucs wanted to do. Again, they have some unusual circumstances with personnel issues because all 3 of your tight ends are out. Your only fullback is out. You're using linemen as tight ends. So I don't think they had some of the flexibility they would like to have to solve some of the problems they had.
Hey, but we have some good news. We actually have one tight end on pace to actually play on Sunday. Luke Stocker on the injury report, full participation. Austin Seferian-Jenkins, the rookie, did not practice again today. Greg, what's your inkling on Seferian-Jenkins? Do you think he plays?
I talked to him today, and he was very guarded in what he said. Talked about, trying to go through treatment, do what the coaches say. He's been a spectator again. It's now Thursday, so he's got one more chance to practice. I don't think there's been a time this year that somebody hasn't practiced on a Friday, has missed the whole week, and is still played on Sunday. So if he's not back out there and making considerable progress tomorrow, you can probably count him out. Brandon Myers, who would be the next tight end, he's got an ankle sprain. I don't think he's going to play this week. So even if you get Stalker back, that's a big help, especially for the run game, because I think he's been the next option as a fullback and as a run blocker. All you have at that point is Stalker and Cam Braid, who's the rookie that stepped up last week. So you're probably playing with your number 3 and number 4 tight ends.
Of course,
but that's better than what they had last week.
Yeah. That's
yeah,
for sure.
yeah, pretty much the same thing. Now they're going to go up to Detroit. This is a little bit of a different football team. We're going to talk to Tom Lydon a little bit later here and get his perspective of what's going up there in Motown. But I'm wondering if the people up there are waiting for the shoe to drop on the other foot because Detroit has been there before, and then they petered out at the end of the season. But not to say this is going to be the week, because if it is the week, it'll be one of the most embarrassing weeks for Detroit. But still, Greg, the defense, as we know, they've moved from 31st now to 20th on the list. That's still not great, but let's face it, the last 4 weeks have been pretty impressive.
Big improvement.
A big improvement.
Big.
And they're going to go up against Stafford and Calvin and the gang. That's a pretty formidable offense. Do they have that opportunity? You think they got that chance to go to Detroit and to show up like they have the last 4 weeks, or is this, you think, is going to be a pretty tough nut to crack?
No, I mean, I think Detroit's defense is an elite unit. It's a great NFL defense. I think they're number 1 in scoring. They're number 2 in total yards. They're number 1 in total rushing. It's not going to be an easy defense for them to get points on, let alone enough points to win. I do think, like you said, I think the Bucs defense has played remarkably better in the second half of this season. I think their worst outing in the first 6 games, or their best outing in the first 6 games, is still better from a yardage perspective than their worst outing in the last 6. They've taken a big step forward, more than 100 yards difference between the first 6 games and the second 6 games. And again, what that doesn't do, that doesn't put points on the scoreboard. So again, it's probably going to take them holding Detroit in check to the extent of 10 points, 13 points. If they're going to win a game, it's going to take that kind of defensive effort. And as Lovie Smith has said, he needs his defense to score. It's not enough to get an interception on the first play of the game, to get 3 interceptions in the first half. You've got to, if you can't get the offense to score when you give it to them, you have to score for them. So, last year, the big reason why they won that game in Detroit was the defense coming up and getting turnovers. I think there were 4 turnovers in that game. Obviously, the late one that Calvin Johnson had to really give the game away to the Bucs. They need that again on Sunday if they want to win.
Hey, Greg, I'll tell you what Lovie really needs is his offense to score. It's like,
I know
he puts
thing is that there's the other side of the ball that actually is supposed to score for you that isn't doing it. But you're right, absolutely.
Yeah, and Lovie puts a lot of pressure on his defense because he is a defensive-minded coach. We're looking down the road here, but I don't think there's any question that there's going to have to be some fairly significant changes made to that coaching staff on the offensive side of the football. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, I agree. I mean, you don't have an offensive coordinator, so that right there is going to be a significant change. And I mean, I think the Bucs have been very careful. I mean, Marcus Arroyo is the quarterback's coach. He's not the offensive coordinator. He's not the acting offensive coordinator. He's not the interim offensive coordinator. So I think whoever comes in here as a new offensive coordinator will probably have the opportunity to bring in a quarterback's coach to reshuffle the staff a little bit to suit what they want to bring in. This is very much. I mean, I'm sure Lovie Smith is going to have a big say in the kind of offense they run. But I don't think there's many things you can point to on the offensive side right now that you'd say coaches have made a compelling case to stick around. You think about the offensive line, the money that was put into that unit, and the way they've played. That's been a disappointment. So, yeah, you could see a lot of changes on that side of the ball here in the month of January, even as things get going in the offseason.
Yeah, that's going to be a big storyline to start looking into once the season ends because, if this whole thing doesn't happen with Jeff Tedford, I mean, you have your injuries, but if Tedford didn't go down or if he didn't have the health issues and Arroyo wasn't calling plays for the first time, I mean, you potentially could look at a completely different team, a different record, too.
If all they are is, a field goal better every game, if all they are is a touchdown here and there better, all of a sudden, instead of being 2-10, you're a 5-7 team. You're a 6-6 team. All these close games that have gone against them. I think I was reading 8 games where they'd had the ball in the final 4 minutes with a chance to win. And they have 1 win to show for those 8 games. So, yeah, if you get half of those back, you're in the middle of the pack. And heck, in this division, you're probably leading the NFC South the way that's been this year.
Yeah.
Well, Greg, your thoughts on this game in Detroit? You think the Bucs win this one, or is this Motown's game?
No, I do. Right now, I think it's another road loss. I think Detroit has so many weapons offensively to add Golden Tate to what they already have with Calvin Johnson. Right now, I just don't see the offense putting up enough points to keep up with them. So I see it as another kind of 24-13 type game. Every time we do this, they're a lot closer than they expect them to be. It's not like you're getting these 56-0 games from them. But in terms of having to pick something, I still have to think it's Detroit taking care of business at home on Sunday.
Yeah, after all, last year the Bucks went in there and they got their first win or the third win of the year in Detroit. Who knows? It could happen.
Well, things
again.
happen in this series. That's one thing we have to keep in mind, that when Tampa gets together with Detroit, you could pretty much sometimes
Take the records
I
out
think
the door.
I think you throw the line out of Vegas, and 9.5 points is a lot of points, man. That's
and
a lot of
honestly,
points.
Lovie Smith is 9-1 in his last 10 against Detroit. I mean, when he was in Chicago, he owned Detroit. Obviously, he's got a different set of players. They have a different set of players. But he played his teams played very well against Detroit. Leslie Frazier, again, has gone up against Detroit twice a year for the last 7 years. So he knows Matt Stafford. He knows at least the personnel on the field. I think he's 8-4 in his last 12 against Detroit. They have a lot of history winning against Detroit. They just have to do it with the players they have now.
Yeah, I'm looking right here. Last time the Bucks lost in Detroit, 2007, the first time they did that in 13 years.
Yeah, so I don't know. The Bucks, hopefully will keep it close. I don't think they're going to win either, but then again, when is there a week that I do think they're going to win?
That's true. And, Greg, real quick, one more question. You look at the last 3 games, Carolina, Green Bay, and New Orleans. Do you see them winning any of these games?
Carolina's a game they can win. I mean, Carolina, even though it's on the road, Carolina hasn't been a very good team. They're making a lot of changes. They're still trying to find answers as well. They're a win and a tie above the Bucks in a bad division. So, no, Carolina's a game they could win. It's not like this team has been a better team at home than they are on the road. So, of those 3, that's the one I would point to hang your hat on as a potential win if you want a third win from this team. They're not going to beat the Packers, even here in Tampa. The Saints, stranger things have happened, but I don't see that happening either right now. But Carolina's a game they can win.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens, Greg. Have a great trip up to Detroit, and enjoy yourself, and have a good time at Ford Field. And I don't know, maybe we'll talk about a win, but I doubt it next week.
It's possible.
It's possible, but not probable. But anyway, we love you, Greg.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Greg.
All right. Thanks, guys. Take care.
All right. Can you feel that positive?
Oh, yeah, Greg was
positive stuff coming.
very confident in
I'm
the
feeling
last 2 home games. Here, if you think about it, if they don't win against Green Bay and New Orleans, they're not going to – it'll go back to December of last season to have a home win at Raging. That's just not good.
Okay.
That's horrible.
Hey, listen, before we go to break and bring in Tom Lydon here in a couple of minutes, let's go to Jim in Newport Richie. Jimbo! How are you?
Good, guys.
What's up?
Jim, how you been? Haven't heard
I'm
from you
good, man.
in a few
Good.
weeks.
So I met you last week, happy wife, happy life,
There you go.
Hey, listen, first off, I want to say I'm liking the defense. I think they're making big strides. Lovie Smith still needs to walk the plank.
I didn't know he was going to say that.
For not going for a last-minute field goal the other day, man. I mean, what do you have to lose? You at least give it a shot, What do you think on that?
So you're saying, Jim, that they should have just gone for, I think, would have been a 64-yard field goal instead of trying to get closer?
Yeah.
Who do you think we got? Superman back there? Come on, man. 64 yards?
You got a rookie kicker.
At least, give it a shot. Maybe you can get a penalty, get them to jump or something. You get a little bit. If not, so they got to get another 5 yards. They need Hail Mary. What do you got to lose?
Well, okay.
You give it something. You know what I'm saying?
And if you would have missed it, would you have also said, well, hey, why don't you try to get better field position and go, 10, 15, 20 yards further?
But they didn't have the time.
Well, they could have if they didn't get called for that 12th man on the field. I mean,
the Bengals have somebody up in the press box counting players. We don't.
That's just a lapse in coaching. It's something that basic.
It's a brain fart, buddy.
Yeah.
It's just one of those typical brain farts that these guys come up with on a weekly basis.
But
what are you going to do?
But to your point, Jim, if you think about it,
what point?
Well, his point. What do you have to lose? I mean, you haven't had a home win since December of last season, and you're then 2-9, now 2-10. I guess I see that point. But at the same time, I don't think you put a rookie kicker with no good experience in that position.
You got nothing to lose. But you're talking about the brain fart, that falls on the head coach, man.
You got it.
You're right. That is a very good point.
I love you, Jim. I appreciate the call. The thing is, what's funny is that we talk about, some of the things that the Buccaneers should do in logic. Well, why would we?
Right.
there just doesn't seem to be
There's no
logic
Yeah.
when you really need it.
Right.
All right. Well, listen, Jim, thanks again for the call. And for those of you
Thanks,
that want to
Jim.
join us on the lines, the number 813-367-0171. You can join us, and we're going to take a short break here on the plank. And when we come back, I've been waiting for this one. Tom Lydon from WXYZ, sports director, will be joining us to get us up to date on a real football team, the Detroit Lions. We'll be back.
Real.
Oh, yeah.
That stings.